Our speaker today is Linda S. Ershow-Levenberg. Linda is a partner of the law firm of Fink Rosner Ershow-Levenberg and Marinaro, LLC in Clark, New Jersey. She advises people who are aging, people with disabilities, and those who are caring for them. Clients seek Linda's advice to save their family home, pay for long-term nursing care, and to make arrangements to protect loved ones using trusts, wills, powers of attorney, and guardianships. Special needs planning and Medicaid planning, as well as probate and estates, are a major part of her practice. An entrepreneur at heart, Linda enjoys business development and strategy. She's been in the elder law field since 1995. She sponsored externs from her alma mater, Douglas College, now part of Rutgers, for over 20 years, and has always been an active mentor for young lawyers, especially those who are starting their own practice. Linda has been certified in elder law since 1999 by the National Elder Law Foundation, the accrediting body which is recognized by the New Jersey Supreme Court and the American Bar Association. And she is a member of the Council of Advanced Practitioners of the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. She is a co-author with Peggy Sheehan Nee of the LexisNexis Practice Guide to New Jersey Elder Law, first published in 2008 with annual updates. She has also published articles on elder and disability law in the Marquette's Elder Advisor, Neela News, New Jersey Lawyer newspaper, and other professional publications for attorneys, and is a frequent lecturer on elder law issues to professional community groups such as this. Linda received her BA magna cum laude from Douglas College, where she was a member of Phi Beta Kappa, and her JD from Rutgers Law School, Newark. She was admitted to the New Jersey Bar in 1984, has been in practice here since 1985. She lives with her husband, David, and has 4 children, 2 of whom are married, and a granddaughter. For hobby, she throws pottery on the wheel, she plays guitar, and sings and writes folk music and ballads. So, very impressive biography, and Linda, take it away.
Good morning, everybody. So you've invited me here to talk to you about a topic that strikes terror in the hearts of boomers and their parents. Now, first, I'm going to teach you the thing that you need to say to somebody if you ever hear anyone telling you over cards, over golf, bowling, or a beer at a family event, I think I'm going to have to move so-and-so to a nursing home. Now, what's the first thing you're going to say to that person? It's not, oh, I'm so sorry. You're going to say to them, have you talked to an elder law attorney yet? Okay, repeat after me. Have you talked to an elder law attorney yet? And then they'll say, why? And you'll say, because there's a lot you don't know, and every situation is unique, and you want to be protected. And they'll say, why should I pay to see a lawyer? I could just look the stuff up online. And you're going to say, because there's a lot you don't know, and each situation is unique, and you want to be protected. That's what we do for individuals that need to place their loved ones in nursing homes. And that's what we do as advocates for people that are living in nursing homes. Me, I've been in and out of nursing homes for decades between my work and visits and early volunteer work that I did. And one time I was visiting my 97-year-old great aunt, and it had been several months since I'd been there to see her. And she was starting to show signs of senility the last time I was there. So when I found her in the day room, I went up to her and I said, do you know who I am? And she looked up at me and she said, no, but if you ask the nurse, she'll tell you. So here we go. We're going to talk about a variety of topics this morning. And in the handouts that I gave to Paul to send out to all of you, I have a little outline. And what I'd like to do is I'll talk about the topic for a while, and then I'll break for questions about that topic, and then I'll move on to the next topic, and we'll do questions about that topic. We're going to start out talking about selection, and then admission, and then residence rights. Now, most of what we're going to be talking about today has to do, or most of what I'm going to be talking to you about today, has to do with the nursing homes that are general private nursing homes, not the specialty homes, not the veterans home, okay? So there are hundreds of nursing homes throughout the state of New Jersey, and virtually all of them participate in Medicare as well as Medicaid. But there are a couple of specialty nursing homes around the state, and they are regulated somewhat differently. For example, there is a home for retired artists. Pretty competitive to get in there, actually. There is a retired firefighters nursing home. And there is the New Jersey Veterans Administration homes. There are three of them. One's down in Vineland, one is in Edison, and one is up in Passaic County. So, although a lot of what I'll talk to you about might apply to those places, the processes tend to be different, and the regulations are different. So I'm going to really be focusing on the regular nursing homes that you're likely to encounter or be thinking about. When it comes to selecting a nursing home, my number one criteria is that I want it to be close to the person that I call the first responder. Okay, and I use that phrase not out of any disrespect to people in the healthcare field, but because in every family unit where there are aging family members, there's going to be someone who really is the first responder. Now, maybe it's the spouse. Maybe it's the child, the adult child who is living, with the parent. Might be the adult child who lives closest by and is the one who is running over to take care of every emergency, from a plumbing leak to a need to go shopping for groceries. And the first responder might be the person who happens to be designated as power of attorney, or happens to be designated as the medical power of attorney. But there's always going to be somebody who is the designated first responder, okay? And the reason this is important in the context of nursing home placement is because once a person moves into a nursing home, and that's their new home, that's where they're going to be living out their days, there needs to be somebody who can drop in quickly, okay? I really like it if the nursing home is within 15 minutes of either where the first responder lives or where they work, so that they can pop in whenever they feel they need to, and they don't have to fly in, and they don't have to rearrange their whole day and things like that. In terms of choosing among available facilities, there are a couple of sources. You can go online and look at what's called the New Jersey Report Card, which is has all kinds of data pertaining to the inspections that the state has done of nursing homes. So the New Jersey Report Card is something that's put out through the state Department of Health. And then the federal government has something called Nursing Home Compare. In the event that a person needs specialized care, or they're in a specialized category like the ones I was mentioning before, veterans, artists or firefighters. If they need specialized care, the choice of nursing homes may be a little bit more limited, and you might not necessarily be able to find a place that is super close to where the first responder lives. Examples of that might be if the individual who's going into the nursing home has behavioral problems. Although all nursing homes are capable of handling basically every imaginable type of health condition that the elderly person has, there are some that are better known in the field for people that are geriatric, that have psychiatric disorders. So that would be the kind of thing that you might need to look into especially. Another example would be if the individual is on a ventilator. You know, someone who is vent dependent, they're in the hospital, they go to subacute, and then they may need to be maintained on a ventilator in a nursing home, and not all nursing homes have ventilator beds. So those are kind of specialty situations. As part of the process of selecting the nursing home, one of the reasons that a person should talk to an elder law attorney early in the process is to chat about the financing plan. I'm going to talk more about financing at the end of this talk, but fundamentally, some people have long-term care insurance. Most people don't, but some do. And if that's the case, the combination of long-term care insurance and Social Security or pension may fully cover the cost of the nursing home without even having to dip into assets at all. So it's important to identify, is that the situation that we have? Is this a situation where the person actually is already eligible to apply for Medicaid? Or is this a situation where there's opportunities to become eligible for Medicaid and preserve the assets for the family? But it's important to have that conversation at the time that the decision is being made about a placement, because one of the questions at the time of admission is, how is this being paid for? So that brings us to admission. Many people are admitted to nursing homes from the hospital. And you've heard of lots of situations like this, I'm sure. Typically, when a person is in the hospital, they've been admitted for 3 days or more, the doctor discharges them with orders for some rehab or subacute skilled care. Now, it might be somebody who has had a catastrophe, like a heart attack or a stroke or a really bad injury. And now they're being discharged to the subacute part of the nursing home for rehab. They're going to get cognitive rehab, they're going to get speech and swallowing, physical therapy, which is lower body, occupational therapy, which is use of the hands, all kinds of things like this. So they may be going in from hospital to subacute. And for the subacute part of it, Medicare is going to cover up to 100 days. The first 20 days, Medicare will pay 100%. And for up to another 80 days, Medicare will pay 80%, and the individual or their secondary policy's got to pick up 20. The long-term care begins at the point that this subacute treatment ends. Now, there are some people who go into nursing homes directly from the community. These tend to be dementia patients, because there's lots of ways to care for someone with dementia wonderfully at home, or even someone who doesn't have dementia but maybe has serious physical disabilities. There's lots of ways to put together an effective home care plan. But there can come a point when the doctor says, you know, I want my patient to be in a facility where there are nurses around 24/7. Or maybe the spouse is the one taking care of the person who has dementia, and the spouse is just falling apart. You know, they're up at all hours, they're really, you know, being run ragged, and they just are collapsing. And so it breaks their heart, but they need to make that placement in a nursing home. There are two major sets of information that the family is going to provide at the time of admission. One part of it is clinical. There are certain medical forms that the admission people are going to want the doctor to fill out so that they can see what's the full nature of this individual's medical problems. You know, what medications are they on? You know, what are all their different problems? Because a lot of times, at the point that a person goes into a nursing home, they've got a lot of medical problems going on that need to be managed. So the facility needs to see a complete picture about all of that. The application also does require a full disclosure of the family finances. And when I say family, I mean the individual or the individual and their spouse. And I always tell people, just provide all of the information. It does not obligate you to spend all your dollars on the nursing home, but at the time of admission, you just fill it all out and provide all of the information. Typically, the first month's fee and 1 month security are required at the time of admission. But you do not sign over the house. You do not give a nursing home carte blanche access to the bank account. Some of the nursing homes are doing this. They'll say, oh, just give, you know, sign this form so that we can auto debit your account every month. No, you're not going to do that. You're not going to give them that kind of access, and you're not signing over anything. But a check has to be written every month up until the point of Medicaid eligibility. Now, what if the person who's going into the nursing home is not competent, or is rather mentally incapacitated? They may not be able to sign their own admission paperwork. A spouse can sign, you know, that's not really a problem. If another person is filling out the paperwork and is power of attorney, then they need to go through the admission packet very carefully and make sure that they are signing as power of attorney in every single place. And there's a million places where a signature or initials are asked for on a nursing home application, okay? Every single thing should be indicated as that they are signing for the resident, okay? So why is this really important? And I did a blog post that was called, don't co-sign that admissions agreement unless you plan to pay the bill. Don't guarantee it. The nursing homes for a long time, and some of them still, would try to trick people into signing as a guarantor. Now, as a legal matter, if you take on the voluntary obligation as a guarantor, it means that they can come after you for whatever you've guaranteed, right? You know all about guaranteeing grandkids' college loans and guaranteeing your kid's car loan, right? You're familiar with that. So in a nursing home setting, anyone is free to guarantee payment of the bill in the event that the resident doesn't pay. But they don't have to. They certainly do not have to. And so when the power of attorney is going through the packet, they need to make sure that they're never signing as guarantor. Some of the nursing homes have come up with something clever. They call it responsible party. And it used to be very clear that every place they put responsible party, they were really meaning guarantor. Now some of the applications are a little bit not quite as clear cut, and you have to look at them very carefully. But fundamentally, the only person who is obligated to pay the nursing home bill is the individual in the bed or their spouse. So I'll pause here, and if you have any questions about selection of nursing home or the admission process, I'll take those questions now.
Okay. Mike Martin. You have to unmute, Mike.
Yes, thank you. Just a question on this 100 days of admission under the guise of rehab. Okay, is that, people will go in and out of the hospital in acute care. So the question I have is that if you go in for, let's say, 100 days, you're in a subacute setting or however you characterize it, I'll just say it's rehab. What is the limitation, if any, if you get, in other words, sick again and go back in for the same disease? Is it another 100 days or is there a limit? Thank you.
Sure. So Medicare, we're talking Medicare Part A.
Right.
Medicare has a term which is spell of illness. A spell of illness begins in the hospital, and then it goes to the discharge to subacute, okay, after the 3 days inpatient admission. The 100 days is triggered by that spell of illness. Let's say the individual uses up 30 days in rehab, and they go back to the hospital. Maybe they go home for a little bit, and then they bounce back to the hospital. And now they come out after another 3 days and they're back in rehab. So since it's all within a 60-day window, okay, 60, that is considered the same spell of illness. So now Medicare Part A rehab benefits going to pick up as day 31. So for these admissions back and forth that occur within a 60-day window, it's all part of the original spell of illness. It gives you at most the 100 days. So if a person comes out of rehab after 30 days, and maybe they go back home and a couple of months later, they are back in the hospital, that's going to now trigger a new 100-day period of rehab.
Thank you.
Next question from Bill Tittle.
Yeah. Is there a lot of questions around choosing the home, and so the first question is there a rating system like hotels, 4 stars, 3 stars?
Sort of. The only thing I really know of is through that New Jersey report card, where you can see how they've done on the mandatory state inspections. There are probably chat rooms, like there are probably Facebook groups of people whose loved ones are in certain nursing homes. But that's
I don't believe Facebook. I don't like that approach. So
Yeah.
so thank you. That's good on that one. The second thing is planning to stay in my house until my wife or I need to go in a nursing home. So I'm not referring somebody else. I may be referring myself, you know, like, as long as I'm mentally comfortable and capable of doing that, I'd probably work through an attorney like you to make that choice. Is that a good strategy for someone like me? I'm not referring to somebody else. I'm probably going to be referring myself. Is that the right approach, to retain an elder law attorney like you?
I would say yes. I have plenty of people that come in sort of for a checkup on their estate plan and their well-being when they're in their 70s. And their health is pretty good, but their kids are grown up, they're retired, you know, the kinds of things they were worried about when they did their estate plan 20 years ago might not be applicable. And so they'll come in and we'll take a look at the estate plan to see if all the people they selected for different jobs are still available to do these different jobs, like power of attorney or executor. And we'll take a look at how they're positioned in terms of insurance, health, finances, and they'll get a general concept of how to approach things if they start to decline and start to need care. So yeah, there are all different stages at which people come in. So
in making a selection to go into a continuing care place, the big issue is, are you qualified to go in? You know, if you're too sick, you can't get in. Is there any issue of that sort in a nursing home, you know, being acceptable to the nursing home?
So that issue doesn't really bar entry when it comes to nursing home care, okay? Because nursing homes are at the far end of the care continuum, right? If the care continuum is independent at home, maybe independent in assisted living or independent in a CCRC, and then, you know, needing a certain amount of assistance, but not 24/7, nursing homes are at the far end of the continuum. So at the point at which the doctor says, I really think this patient should be in a nursing home, there's not going to be an issue of being too ill or too disabled. It's going to be a question of finding the right place.
Okay, last question. I have a very good friend who has terminal advanced cancer, and his doctor is telling him it's time to go into hospice. But my understanding is that there's a real shortage in hospice. You know, this whole with all the hospitals, with the COVID people, and is there availability to get into nursing homes?
So hospice is a set of services that is provided through Medicare Part A, typically at the point where a patient is terminally ill and they don't want to be bouncing in and out of the hospital for treatment. Now they just want to be kept comfortable. Hospice services can be delivered in the home. They can be delivered in an assisted living or a nursing home, or they can be delivered in the freestanding hospice facilities. In terms of what the availability is of beds in hospice facilities, I don't know.
No, that's not a fair question, but is nursing home an option for someone who really needs hospice?
Yes, I mean, they still need 24/7 bodily care. So yes, a person can move into a nursing home, that becomes their new home. And hospice services are then brought in.
Okay,
So
Thank
that transitions us to talk about the new home and the rights of the residents, okay? People that live in nursing homes are not called patients. They are called residents. And the reason for this is because the nursing home is where they live. They happen to get health care there, and they happen to get food and all kinds of things there. But fundamentally, it is their residence. So the Nursing Home Reform Act at the federal government decades ago established a broad array of rights of the residents of nursing homes. And it came about after the horror shows of the 1970s that you all remember reading about on the front page of the New York Times. So when you, and it actually makes for very interesting reading, even though this is the Code of Federal Regulations, it's actually very interesting to read through the residents' rights section. So it's in Chapter 42 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Volume 42, Section 483. Because what you see is that the rights are very much couched in the kind of privacy rights that a person might have if they were living out in the community, the right to select their own doctors, the right to refuse treatment, you know, all those same kinds of rights that we have as individuals carry over into the nursing home setting. Now, granted, a person is living within an institutional setting and certain things are going to be handled in an institutional way, but nonetheless, there's a tremendous amount of protection for the individual. There are explicit rules pertaining to the rights of the residents to a safe environment and to a care plan that assures their safety. There are rights pertaining to visitation and to participation in care planning. I'm going to describe a few of them in a little bit more detail. The overarching concept, as it says, is that the resident has a right to a dignified existence, self-determination, and communication with and access to persons and services inside and outside the facility. That is the foundation that everything else is built upon. Okay, they still have the right to vote. They have the right to leave the facility if they want to. Obviously, you know, in keeping with their care plan. In the event that a court has appointed a guardian for the resident, then the guardian acts on behalf of the resident to exercise all of the resident's rights. In the event that a resident has appointed an agent under power of attorney, if the resident is now incapacitated, the agent under power of attorney can exercise all of these rights. They have the right to get medical records, okay? Absolute right for themselves or their representative to read the chart and to get copies of the records in the chart. And actually, federal law requires their records be made available within 24 hours, sorry. 24 hours, excluding weekends and holidays. It's a little slower now because everything with COVID is a little bit slower, but fundamentally there is this absolute right. You have no idea how many people have said to me after they moved their loved one in and they were talking to me about some issue with the care plan. And I said, have you read the chart yet? To see if they're writing down the things that you're noticing. And they said, what do you mean I can look at the chart? You know, came as a big surprise. Let's see a few others. Notification of changes in the care plan or of incidents involving the resident. The facility has to immediately inform the resident, consult with their doctor, and notify the legal representative or interested family member. If there's an accident involving the resident that results in injury and might require doctor's intervention, if there's any significant change in the person's physical, mental, or psychosocial status, if there's a need to alter treatment for some reason, if there's a change of room or a roommate. And there are many, many other things that they are required to notify you about. So the facility can't just, find mom on the floor, pick her up, get her back in her wheelchair, dust things off, and never tell the family about it. It's an absolute right to receive this information.
So Linda, do you want to return to your prepared remarks and defer the next 5 questions to the end? It's up to you, actually, what you want to do.
Yeah, let's hold questions about residents' rights for a few minutes. And if the nursing home resident has to go to the hospital, they have a right to have their bed held for them for 10 days. And if they happen to be on Medicaid, then Medicaid's going to pay for it. But if they are private pay, then they just have already paid for the month because you pay in advance. But they've got an absolute right to have that bed held for them for 10 days. There's also the right for what is called comprehensive person-centered planning. Okay, in the nursing home setting, the facility is required to develop an individualized care plan that will maximize the well-being of the individual resident. The care plan has to be designed to, as I said, to preserve the resident's dignity and to attain and maintain the highest practicable physical, mental, and psychosocial well-being of the individual resident based on his or her individual needs. Okay, so they can't have one care plan for everybody and just, put people on this assembly line. When a person is admitted to the nursing home, within a matter of days after admission, they have to put together an individualized care plan. There needs to be a meeting with the family. There needs to be discussion about the proposed care plan. And then over the course of the month, they adjust it as they see how the resident is doing. And the resident has the right to participate in that care planning. And I'll mention about discharges, and then we'll take questions. So there are only 6 bases for discharges from nursing homes. Okay, only 6. The state of New Jersey had to send out this massive reminder to nursing homes a few years ago because they were coming up with all kinds of other bogus reasons for discharging people. Number 1, the transfer is necessary to meet the resident's welfare. And the resident's welfare can't be met in the facility, can't be done for the convenience of the staff. I've had to fight battles where I had, say, a first responder child who was a very vigorous, noisy advocate for their loved one in the nursing home. And the nursing home tried every which way to get them to leave. No, you can't do it. Number 2, the safety of the individuals in the facility is endangered. That can happen. I mean, there could be a resident whose condition is such that it starts producing violent behavior. Or there could be a severe problem with contagious disease. Number 3, the health of other individuals. Oh, that's where contagious disease. Okay, so number 2, the safety of the other individuals is endangered. Number 3, the health of other individuals in the facility is endangered. Number 4, the resident has failed to pay for the stay, meaning they didn't apply for Medicaid in a timely way, or they just stopped paying the bill. I had a case once where the agent under power of attorney just didn't feel like it, and that was a problem. They had access to the money, but they weren't paying the bill. The next basis for discharge from a nursing home is that the facility closes. Now, in all of these reasons, the facility is obligated to arrange for a safe discharge. So they cannot simply call the family and say, we're discharging her, take her to your house. Okay, they cannot do that. They have to give 30 days notice except in emergency, and the facility has to arrange an appropriate discharge. The final reason that a discharge is allowed, I have never seen in my entire career, which is that the resident's health has improved such that long-term care is no longer necessary. So that's it, only 6 reasons for discharge. Notice is required, and they have to find a safe place. Okay. Question.
Okay, great. Back to questions. So Tony Visocki.
Yeah, hi, thank you very much for your enlightened talk. I had to place my wife in a facility at the beginning of May. So we have a long-term plan with John Hancock. And of course, I had to pay the first 3 months, which is like the deductible. And since then, Hancock has taken up the things. But I noticed on my bill that an item called care services, that the insurance company will pay $146, and then the covered amount is $107, which leaves me with $39 to pay out of my pocket. Do I need to pay that? Or is it covered by, for example, when you get your thing from the health company, it says, although they haven't paid out the whole thing, I'm not liable for that particular part and don't have to pay it. But this one says, it's $39, which amounts to quite a bit of money in the month. So am I obliged to pay that, or can I ask them, why are you paying more than the stipulated amount?
Sure, I understand the question. So I can't give you specific individual legal advice in a setting like this. I'm not allowed to, but I can tell you in general. With insurance policies, like long-term care insurance policies, they specify we pay for this and we pay for that up to X amount per day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what they provide. That's what you bought. There are times when a nursing home is billing for certain services and you think maybe it should be rolled into some other part of the fee that is part of your policy. And there are certainly times when you can go to the administrator and say, look, my insurance is, is going to pay X amount per day. I'd like you to take that as payment in full. And the worst that happens is they say no. But that's kind of the way it works.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Herb Waddell.
Well, you really answered my original question, but it dealt with the issue of the medical treatment received by residents. And I've been involved in a couple of situations with a local nursing home where patients were actually mistreated, and there are lots of people who wouldn't even notice But there are some people who ask questions and find out that the patient is not getting proper treatment. Well, I'm just concerned about that, and I'm wondering if along the question of I think Bill Kittle's question, if there are ratings of these places and or reputation, where do you find out whether a nursing home is going to give proper care? I observed what I considered medical malpractice, medication for the benefit of the staff rather than the benefit of the resident. And but you know, I don't know anyone around here that openly discusses how rotten their nursing home experiences have been, but it happens, I'm sure. Is there some way of tracking that?
In general, the formal ratings and statistics are compiled by the government. There may be certain long-term care advocacy organizations that keep track of some of this information, but really what your comment points out is the importance of there being somebody who is keeping an eye on the situation. Yeah. Because there's a very complicated array of healthcare and just maintenance care that's going on day in and day out. And there's a lot of staff, and some of the facilities are using outsourced staffing companies. So there's a lot of change of personnel so that the new shift doesn't necessarily really know the individual resident as well as a staff person who is there every day, you know, and can see subtle changes and understand. But vigilant oversight by the family member is really number one, you know, looking at the body of the individual to see how they are, okay? Looking in their mouth, you know, are they not eating because they're developing sores in their mouth and their teeth are starting to fall out, right? You know, are they developing a wound because they're obviously not being moved around enough? The New Jersey Long-Term Care Ombudsman is the state agency that takes complaints regarding the treatment of residents by nursing homes. And they are certainly a first place to call in the event that you're not getting success through making noise, care planning meetings, you know, things like this.
That's New Jersey Ombudsman. Is that the title of the office?
Yeah.
How would I enlist their help?
So their website is www.nj.gov, okay, G-O-V, /OOIE.
OIIE?
OOIE. Stands for Office of the Ombudsman for the Institutionalized Elderly. So they have a hotline and you can call them anytime if you've got a specific complaint about the treatment in a certain nursing home.
Thank you. I hope I
Okay.
never need.
I just Googled NJ Ombudsman. I think that would find it for you too if you lost the link here.
Yeah.
So the next person is Jim Blinn.
Yes. Hi, thank you. Very, very informative talk. I've noticed in a nursing home that they have a big poster up, that a sign that certificate from the Centers for Medicare Services, it says we've got so many stars. And I'm just wondering your opinion of how appropriate those star ratings are. Are they really, worth anything?
Tough question. Right, that's based on the inspections and audits that are done by CMS. I like to think I like to think that generally speaking, the auditors who work for our government agencies are responsible individuals who seek to carry out the mission of their job. And I think that in general, that's the case with our public servants. So I wouldn't look at that, at the survey results, with an inherently suspicious eye. But that's me. It's still important to, you see these ratings, but you also get a sense of a place when you walk around. And if you look at the residents that are surrounding your loved one, right? Do they look clean? Do they look adequately fed? Do their linens look clean? Is the facility clean? Those kinds of things. Look, there are, and I'm not paid by the nursing home industry or anything, okay? But so I've been in this field now for 25 years. And I have colleagues who handle nursing home negligence cases. And I know that there are cases of truly negligent care in nursing homes. Absolutely. And I have had clients over the years where we've had to deal with that. But the vast majority of the families that I've advised over the years have not called up at some point and saying, oh my God, you won't believe what they're doing to my mother, okay?
So yeah, just about that. My wife's mother was in a nursing home in Iowa, and they had on their wall a report that every month, I guess, and it had all the incidents. And so you could thumb through that report and you could see, oh, there was a problem with this and here's how it was or wasn't fixed. Is that the same in New Jersey? Do they have that? I didn't see anything like that, but I didn't ask either. So do they have those kind of reports?
Yeah, I believe they have to keep that information available.
So that would be a good thing for somebody, if you were thinking about taking somebody to a nursing home, to say, gee, I'd like to see your reports about incidences and so forth.
Right.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Before we take the next question, let me make a comment. There's a lot of important information that we've been hearing, and it's hard to take it all in and remember it on a single hearing, especially since some of it we may not need right away, but we might need later. So with 99% certainty, this meeting will be turned into a YouTube at our channel, unless there's total disaster. Linda's already agreed to this, unless it's totally disastrous. And once it's in YouTube, I'll point out to you, a lot of people don't know this, but you can turn on closed captioning in the YouTube. They provide that service. Or you can pop up a transcript window, and you can actually do keyword searching through the video if you want to look for some particular topic that was covered today. So, I can't tell you exactly how to do that right now, but we could talk about that on some other meeting sometime. So with that, let's go on to Larry Cunningham.
Yeah, everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Linda. It's kind of been an interesting presentation that you've made, and it certainly hits home with probably many of us. Now, some of the old guard guys look at me as one of the younger guys in the group, but that doesn't seem to have been preventing me from having been involved with a whole bunch of different issues. So just as an example, my sister-in-law had bladder cancer, fought it for 4 years, and she was in her late 50s, and she had hospice, and she ended up with hospice at home. So that was one set of issues which my spouse dealt with. My mother's 94, she's in Florida, and she's gone from her living in a room, in a house by herself, to living in a independent living, to living in assisted living, and now she is in, we say, skilled nursing or rehab for the foreseeable future. And in her case, her issue has been mostly driven by the fact that she can't walk anymore. She can't, she has difficulty eating or anything because of her rheumatoid arthritis affects her fingers and so on. But most recently, she's been not allowed to remain in her assisted living because she has a wound on her back that's above a certain category. And in Florida, Florida law says that if you have a wound of a certain category, you can't be accepted as a resident in an assisted living anymore. So, but that's not really the nature of my question. The other thing is my mother-in-law just recently got admitted to an assisted living facility in February this year. And one of the considerations there is, you know, I would imagine most of the guys that are in the old guard have assets that are a little bit more than $2,000, which is what the limit is for Medicaid. And so, you know, it seems like every time you want to check on certain things, somebody always wanted to ask, are you in Medicaid? You know, we say, well, no, we're not in Medicaid. However, the one thing I am aware, I want to see if you can confirm this, is that my understanding is that in most cases, if you gain entry to an assisted living facility and you are able to show or able to demonstrate that you can pay on your own for the first 2 years, if you run out of money thereafter, the facility in New Jersey is forced to accept you. They can't kick you out because you can't pay. You then switch to Medicaid in that particular case. You know, and you know, the assisted living facilities that my mother-in-law was looking at were ranging anywhere from like 125 to 150,000 a year. So you go through money pretty fast. So anyway, I'm just thinking that, but whereas if somebody's in their home and they run out of money in their home, you know, they mortgaged the house, they sold the house, whatever, and they're at home, then it's a problem that if they don't have the 2 years of private pay in their experience, the facilities are all you know, obligated to refuse your entry, and in which case then it's a matter of, you know, what the state of New Jersey would put you in terms of a long-term care facility. So I just want to confirm that your understanding is that the facilities in New Jersey, assisted living facilities and skilled nursing facilities in New Jersey have to accept you regardless of payment, as long as you can demonstrate you've paid for 2 years. Is that true?
So assisted living is regulated differently than nursing homes.
Okay.
Okay? Assisted living facilities are sort of a hybrid of, well, it's mostly contract as opposed to health facility law. There's a contract for residents that is signed by the person coming in. And as part of the contract, you're buying an array of services, healthcare services that can be provided. The typical requirement is that the individual themselves guarantees that they are going to pay privately for 2 years.
Right. Okay.
Maybe more, okay? Because the assisted living facilities are not obligated to accept Medicaid the minute someone becomes eligible for Medicaid. Okay, I'm going to tell you all about that in just a couple minutes. But in assisted living, nobody gets in unless they or some volunteer guarantees payment of the bill for 2 years. And here's what happens after that. let's say as we get towards the end of the 2-year period, we've worked our magic and gotten the person eligible to apply for Medicaid. We apply for Medicaid. And while that application is being processed, the facility is allowed to require payment from someone as a condition for staying there while the
Yeah.
application is pending. Okay, we've tried to get that out, but have been unsuccessful.
Okay,
So 2-year minimum obligation in assisted living. Someone's got to keep paying the bill while the application is pending, subject to being reimbursed. And to make it worse, when the application is finally approved by the county welfare board, the facilities are not required to accept Medicaid. They are allowed to put people on internal waiting lists if they already have more than 10% of their beds occupied by Medicaid recipients. Okay, so there's a lot of traps for the unwary when it comes to assisted living. Why don't we
Okay, yeah,
transition to talking about
get at our target. So the next person is Mark Edelman.
Yes, thank you. I'm learning a lot. I want to know something about the relationship of attorneys to nursing homes. For example, if you go to a nursing home and you're inquiring there and they hand you the papers and you say, well, I want to have my attorney look at them. Does that cause the nursing home to avoid you?
no, it does not.
You know, is it like college admissions where they have discretion?
Well, they do have discretion. There are some nursing homes, for example, who will never take someone in who is already eligible for Medicaid. You know, like maybe someone who is receiving Medicaid benefits for home care, right? So there are some nursing homes that will never take someone in who's eligible for Medicaid. There are some nursing homes that won't accept someone without an expectation agreement to pay more than a couple months of private pay. But I don't know, we always tell our clients that they can do the initial discussions with the nursing home admissions officer and get the application and bring it to us for review so that we can help them fill it out and make sure that there's no problem. I haven't really, you know, found people being barred at the door just because they said I'm working with an elder law attorney.
Okay, can I follow that up by asking, do nursing homes try to get people to agree to arbitration? You know, do they have arbitration clauses?
They do. They have them in their contracts, but you're not obligated to sign it. And it's typically a separate section of the admissions agreement. You know, and they tell you it's optional.
Well, I mean, if you're shopping for a nursing home and you're trying to come to an agreement, is it foolish to refuse the arbitration agreement because then they're going to say, we don't want you?
I haven't encountered that.
Okay, so
Not really.
wouldn't that mean that the advice would be do not agree to arbitration if you don't have to?
Some people are happy to agree to arbitration. They like the idea of it. And other
Okay.
people are not.
Okay, well, just one more chapter of this question. Do you get locked in with a nursing home agreement? Like, for example, let's say you're in a nursing home, but you're unhappy there and you'd like to switch to a different one. Is it very difficult to switch?
The nursing home resident definitely has the right to move to a different nursing home. It is easier to change nursing homes while the person is on Medicare rehab or is in a private pay status. In other words, after a person is already securely on Medicaid in the nursing home, it can be difficult to find a new nursing home that will take them in on Medicaid. But but there certainly is an absolute right to relocate.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mike Katz is next, but let me make one comment here too. Linda can't really put her shingle out and tell us that she's available in this meeting, but I will just point out to you all that you now know one elder law lawyer, attorney, and she's easy to find in the online. So, Mike.
I've got a number of questions. I'm only going to ask one because I know time is short. But given your long experience with nursing homes, Linda, I wonder if you had a general opinion as to whether it can expect that there may be a higher level of, or better level of care in a nonprofit nursing home versus one that's operated for profit.
I'm not really able to give any kind of a blanket comment about that. Sorry.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
I think the best way to assure high quality care is for there to be a vigilant family member, who's really keeping a close watch on things.
Thanks.
Mitch Erickson. Oh, did you want to say something else, Linda? Go ahead.
No, I want to make sure that we have a few minutes to talk about paying for care and the fundamentals of Medicaid. So I'll leave it up to you to.
Well, if you want to talk about that, time is short. Go ahead.
Okay. So as you already know from the beginning of this talk, Medicare is medical insurance, and Medicare pays for rehab in post-hospitalization situations, okay? Terminology can often be confusing because the nursing home industry calls its facilities skilled nursing facilities, but in the public's mind, skilled nursing is really rehab, and nursing home care is long-term care. But Medicare pays for treatment, which is why Medicare does not pay for the long-term nursing home care. Long-term care insurance is a wonderful thing if people have it, because it enables people to preserve their assets and finance their nursing home care, fundamentally out of their fixed income and their insurance. It also, by the way, provides wonderful benefits in the home care setting if someone has long-term care insurance. But basically, the only government program that will pay for long-term care, custodial nursing home care, is Medicaid. Medicaid is a federal program that is administered jointly with the states, and the applications are handled through the county welfare boards. The program in New Jersey is Medicaid long-term services and support. So there's a lot of different Medicaid programs for all kinds of situations. We're only going to talk about the one that pays for nursing homes. When the financial eligibility are strict, okay? The financial eligibility is measured at the time of the application. So hypothetical example, individual goes into the nursing home, pays for the nursing home for a couple months, does a few things, becomes eligible to apply for a Medicaid. Okay, if it's an unmarried individual, their available assets have to be less than $2,000. If they had a house that no one is living in, and now they're in the nursing home, they have to put the house on the market, and that makes it an unavailable asset. But if the rest of the assets are down below 2,000, they can apply for Medicaid. And we have had lots of people who go on Medicaid for quite a while, and the house is sitting on the market. You know, eventually the house sells, they go off Medicaid, and various things. But available assets of less than $2,000 for the applicant. With a married couple, the assets at the time of the application cannot exceed a certain limit. And the range of assets that the spouse in the community can have is between $26,000 and $130,000. And that's calculated by adding up everything that the couple had at the time he went into the nursing home, and then dividing it in half and comparing it to those limits. But that's the limit. So 130,000 in available assets is the limit for the community spouse, plus the residence, plus a car, plus burial plots. When the application is filed, they're going to do, the agency has to do a 5-year look back. That's mandated by federal law. They have to look and see what did the applicant or their spouse do with the assets during the last 5 years. So it's not 5 years in a day. It's not 10 years, which a lot of people think. The main thing that the agency has to look for is whether assets were transferred. Transferred is kind of a magical term in the world of Medicaid. In the legal world, a transfer is what we would call a gift. You know, Medicaid applicant gives their kid $30,000 4.5 years before the Medicaid application to pay for the kid's wedding, right? You know, it's a gift. Transfers of assets to a spouse are actually gifts to the spouse, but it's a change in the ownership from the applicant or spouse to somebody else. Most of the time, if assets were transferred during the 5 years prior to the application, the result is a period of disqualification. So if we make up an example, we'll go back to the example I just gave you. Person goes into a nursing home, unmarried, okay, no house, no nothing. He's been living his life, and he goes into the nursing home. He's got $40,000 and his Social Security and his pension. Pays for the nursing home for a couple months, and then he files his Medicaid application when he's down below 2,000. Oh, he can have a prepaid burial as well. So he files his Medicaid application and he produces 5 years of financial records. All the statements, all the canceled checks. And the caseworker looks through the stack and says, well, look at this. 4.5 years ago, you gave away $30,000. Did you buy something with that? You know, show us the receipt. And he says, no, I didn't buy, you know, anything for myself. I paid for my granddaughter's wedding. So here's what will happen in that example. And let's say that the application is filed for January 1. So the caseworker says, as of January 1, your income was less than the cost of care. You needed nursing home care and you were in the facility. Your assets were below 2,000. However, because you made a $30,000 gift within the 5-year look back, we will not pay for this nursing home for a period of time. And they're going to take the total amount of that gift and they're going to divide it by a factor, which right now is approximately 11,000. And they'll calculate the length of the penalty period. You with me? So in my example, he was eligible to apply on January 1, but now he's got a penalty period. Now, most likely, by the time his January 1 application is being dealt with and he's having this interaction with the caseworker, it's March, might be April. If there was no penalty, Medicaid would pay the nursing home back to January 1. But because of the penalty, which is going to be a little under 3 months for that old gift, Medicaid is not going to pay the nursing home back to January 1. They're only going to pay back, you know, to the end of the penalty period, okay? So what does that mean? Remember I told you, by the way, that there was only 6 grounds for eviction from a nursing home. If the penalty period is already run out and he's in the nursing home with a debt to the nursing home, but he's now on Medicaid, he cannot be evicted because of the debt. It's not in the 6 reasons. However, if he has the misfortune, but I mean, if his Medicaid application is processed quickly and he suddenly is in the nursing home in the middle of a penalty period because of an old gift, he's at risk of eviction and he can have some problems. So that's the general framework, right? You apply when you're eligible and the assets are below the limit. They do the look back. They calculate the penalty. The penalty runs from the time of the application. There are millions of ways that we help people to become eligible for Medicaid and limit the amount of time they have to pay privately. In some circumstances, we transfer everything to the community spouse, like we'll transfer the house to the community spouse typically. You know, we get other assets over. We do various things that I can't, you know, get into in this discussion. But we put together plans that preserve the assets, accomplish eligibility at the earliest point, and we build in a way to pay for the care during the penalty period. So that's what Medicaid planning is all about, is working with all of these complicated rules so that the individual or their spouse or their family can preserve and protect as much as possible without jeopardizing the care of the person who's in the nursing home. There are certain transfers of assets that don't cause any penalty. For example, if assets are transferred to a disabled child, no penalty, even though it's a gift to the disabled child. If assets are put into a certain kind of a trust for benefit of a disabled person who is under 65, no penalty if it's structured properly. If you have a brother and a sister, I've had a number of these cases, brother and sister who live in the house together, maybe they never married, you know, and they've been living in the house together and they jointly own it. If the one in the nursing home signs over his half to his sibling joint owner, there won't be a Medicaid penalty, as long as they've been co-owners living together for 2 years or more. So there are a number of exceptions to these rules. And the whole reason that people should talk to an elder law attorney is so they can figure out how they can build Medicaid into the financing plan if they don't have insurance and they don't have, you know, an unlimited supply of money that they feel like using. Once a
great.
person has filed their application, by the way, they cannot be discharged while the application is pending. They turn over their income every month, but they can't be discharged while the application is pending. And another thing that some people have heard, which is not true, is that if the income is fairly high, that you can't apply for Medicaid. That is not true. If the fixed income is less than the cost of care, they can still apply, but there are some extra procedures that they have to go through.
It's great, Linda. I think we have to draw it to a close now because it's actually 11:50 now. So,
Oh, let me just say one more thing and then I'll
Okay.
be quiet, okay? When people go into nursing homes and they sit down and have that meeting with the business office, typically what happens is the person in the business office says, we'll do the Medicaid application for you. You know, just sign this authorization. Or we want to recommend that you use this entity to do your Medicaid application. No one who goes into a nursing home is obligated to let the nursing home do the application for them or to hire the people that are recommended. And in fact, the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs issued a warning about the use of these kinds of non-attorney preparers. Okay, that's it. I'm done.
okay, thanks. Mike?
Melinda, thank you. That was a great presentation on a very complex and many people emotional subject. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
We have a couple of things we'd like to do to recognize you're doing this. And one is a certificate, which is going to come up on the screen. There it is. A certificate of appreciation from the Old Guard of Summit, New Jersey, which is get you a hard copy. It'll be suitable for framing.
Thank you.
And finally, we want to give you the Old Guard salute. So everybody can be unmuted. There you go. Thank you once again.
Thank
Thank you,
for-
Linda.